Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you push forward, something unseen keeps pulling you back? You set goals, you make plans, you even work with discipline, yet progress feels slow, resistance feels heavy, and your spirit feels tired. This is not always because of a lack of effort or talent. Often, it is because of hidden blocks, forces within yourself that quietly shape your thoughts, your energy, and your direction. These blocks are invisible to the eye, but their effect is undeniable. They create hesitation when you should move forward, doubt when you should believe, and fear when you should be free. These hidden blocks are not accidents. They are patterns that form in the mind and body over time, shaped by experiences, teachings, and environments. Left unexamined, they grow stronger, quietly influencing every decision. But once revealed, they can be broken, and the energy they once consumed can be reclaimed. What feels like invisible chains holding you down can be transformed into steps that lift you higher. There are 5 such blocks, and until you recognize them, you may never truly understand why your path feels so heavy. They are not enemies outside of you. They live inside, in habits, in beliefs, in emotions. But once you shine light on them, they begin to lose their power. And when you learn how to free yourself from them, you discover that the strength you always sought was never missing. It was only buried. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that can shape a human life, and the most dangerous form of fear is the one that disguises itself as caution. On the surface, caution looks wise, reasonable, and protective. It tells you to wait until the timing is perfect, to gather more information, to think a little longer before acting. It whispers that staying where you are is safer than stepping forward into the unknown. And because it wears the mask of wisdom, it is often left unchallenged. But beneath that mask, what is really operating is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. When fear hides behind the voice of caution, it becomes almost invisible, and it begins to dictate choices without being recognized. Think of the times when you wanted to start something new, perhaps a project, a business, a relationship, or a shift in lifestyle. The spark of inspiration was there, the energy felt alive, yet instead of moving, you paused. You told yourself it was not the right time, or you needed more preparation, or you should wait for circumstances to align. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the initial fire that was once burning inside began to dim. What happened? It was not that the opportunity disappeared. It was that fear, dressed as caution, convinced you to hold back. This hidden block is subtle because it uses logic as its weapon. Logic says, do not rush. Logic says, be careful. Logic says, you might fail. And of course, there is wisdom in patience and preparation. But when the energy of fear mixes with caution, it becomes paralysis. It leads to endless hesitation, a cycle of overthinking, and the illusion that you are being responsible when in truth you are being controlled by fear. This is why so many dreams die not in failure but in hesitation. They are not destroyed by mistakes, they are suffocated by inaction. When fear disguises itself as caution, it builds a cage around you. The bars are invisible, but they are strong enough to keep you where you are. Each time you hear that inner voice that says, not yet, or maybe later, you add another bar to the cage. Over time, you become accustomed to the cage and begin to believe that it is normal, that it is simply the way life must be. But the truth is, the cage is self-made. The lock is self-imposed, And the key to freedom is recognizing that caution is often nothing more than fear pretending to protect you. This block often roots itself in past experiences. If you failed once before, the memory of that failure lingers. Fear learns to speak through caution. Remember what happened last time? Don't let it happen again. If you were rejected or hurt in the past, fear whispers, be careful, it will happen again. And so, every new opportunity is filtered through the lens of old wounds. You are no longer seeing the present moment as it is, you are seeing it through the shadows of the past. This makes fear stronger because it convinces you that its voice is experience, when in truth it is limitation. The hidden danger of this block is that it feels like self-protection, but in reality, it prevents growth. True caution is wise when it prevents unnecessary harm, but false caution, fear in disguise, prevents necessary risk, and without risk, there is no transformation. Every step of growth in life requires a leap into uncertainty. Every moment of evolution demands a step outside the known. If fear disguised as caution prevents those steps, you remain the same, even when your spirit longs to expand. Consider how many lives are lived in half measure because of this hidden block. A person who has a gift to share with the world holds back, waiting until they feel completely ready. A person who desires love builds walls around their heart, convincing themselves they are simply being careful. A person with a dream never takes the first step because they are endlessly preparing for the perfect moment. And so opportunities pass, time moves, and the fire within grows dim. Fear wins not by destroying you outright, but by keeping you still. The nature of this block is that it thrives in uncertainty. As long as you keep asking, what if? Fear has power. What if I fail? What if I get hurt? What if I lose? These questions fuel hesitation. Yet the hidden truth is that the future is always uncertain. There is no path without risk, no choice without consequence. Waiting for certainty before acting is like waiting for the ocean to become still before setting sail. The waves will always move. The ocean will always shift. The journey requires courage, not certainty. When fear wears the mask of caution, it also builds the illusion of control. It convinces you that by waiting, by hesitating, by holding back, you are in control of the outcome. But in reality, you are not controlling anything. You are only delaying. Life still moves, time still flows, opportunities still pass. The only thing you are controlling is your own movement, and in that stillness, you lose more than you gain. The way this block holds people back is often silent. It does not shout. It does not push violently. It whispers. It waits. It gently convinces you to do nothing. And in doing nothing, your energy drains, your spirit weakens, and your life remains smaller than it was meant to be. The saddest part is that many never realized this block was fear at all. They believed their hesitation was wisdom, when in truth, it was a hidden chain. This block is not easily broken because it requires brutal honesty. You must look within and ask Yi, is this truly caution or is this fear? Am I protecting myself from real danger or am I protecting myself from discomfort? Am I waiting because the time is truly not right? Or am I waiting because I am afraid to move? These questions are difficult, but they shine light on the disguise. And once you see fear for what it is, its power begins to weaken. The energy of fear, disguised as caution, can linger for years if left unexamined. It can keep someone in a job they dislike because they are afraid of risk. It can keep someone alone because they are afraid of rejection. It can keep someone silent because they are afraid of judgment. And all the while, the person believes they are simply being cautious, when in truth they are being controlled. Recognizing this is the first step to breaking free. Fear is not an enemy to be destroyed, but it is a voice that must be understood. Its purpose is to protect, but when left unchecked, it overprotects. It becomes a prison guard, locking you inside when the world outside is calling you to step forward. The only way to dissolve this block is to see it clearly, to strip away its disguise, and to recognize that most of the time, what you call caution is nothing more than fear keeping you small. Doubt is a shadow that creeps quietly into the mind, and its roots are often planted in the soil of past failures. When something you attempted before did not work out, when you faced rejection, when your effort did not bring the result you desired, those moments leave impressions. They are like scars etched into the memory, and the mind, seeking to protect you, revisits them every time you are about to step forward again. This is how doubt is born. It is not always the reflection of your current ability or your true potential. It is the echo of the past repeating itself, whispering into your present. The challenge with doubt is that it feels rational. If you once tried and failed, does it not make sense to question yourself before trying again? The mind tells you that hesitation is logical, that remembering the past is wisdom, that preparing for disappointment is maturity. But beneath this reasoning lies a hidden chain. The failure itself may be long gone, yet the emotional imprint it left continues to shape the way you see yourself. You begin to question not only the specific action you once attempted, but your very capacity to succeed. Over time, doubt shifts from being about one event to being about your identity. It is no longer, I failed once. It becomes, I will fail again, and eventually, I am someone who fails. This transformation of a single event into a defining identity is how doubt becomes one of the most paralyzing hidden blocks. It narrows the vision. It clouds the present with the dust of the past. Instead of seeing the possibility of success in a new effort, you only see the memory of what went wrong before. And because energy follows attention, the more you focus on past failure, the more you unconsciously invite similar results. The cycle repeats, and with each repetition, doubt grows heavier. Doubt also attacks confidence in subtle ways. It does not always scream, "You cannot do this." Instead, it whispers, "Are you sure?" It asks, "What if it doesn't work out again?" It suggests, "Maybe you are not ready yet." These questions seem harmless, but they are heavy. Each one takes away a little of your courage, a little of your clarity. They drain energy, not through confrontation, but through erosion. You begin with certainty, but by the time doubt has spoken long enough, your conviction feels weaker. And when conviction weakens, action falters. The effect of doubt is not only internal, it manifests outwardly in behavior. Someone carrying doubt speaks with less certainty, moves with less confidence, and takes actions half-heartedly. They do not give their full energy to what they are doing, because in the back of their mind, they are already preparing for failure. This half-heartedness itself becomes the cause of failure, which then confirms the doubt, creating a loop that becomes difficult to escape. Another danger of doubt is that it creates comparison. When you doubt yourself, you look outward to measure your worth. You see others succeeding where you have failed, and instead of inspiring you, their success becomes evidence against you. You begin to think, they can do it, but I cannot. Comparison strengthens the roots of doubt, because it adds external proof to the inner voice. You forget that each journey is different, that each person carries their own timing, their own lessons, their own path. Instead, you interpret difference as deficiency, and doubt deepens. The seed of doubt grows fastest in silence. When you do not express your fears, when you do not bring them into the light of awareness, they multiply in the shadows of the mind. Thoughts cycle endlessly. What if I fail again? What if I embarrass myself? What if I am not good enough? The more these questions repeat, the more real they feel. The mind cannot distinguish between what is imagined and what is actual. The imagined failure becomes as heavy as a real one, and this weight presses down on every new beginning. What makes doubt so powerful is that it distorts perception. It convinces you that the future will mirror the past. If you failed before, doubt makes you believe you will fail again. If you were rejected before, doubt makes you believe rejection is inevitable. But this is illusion. The present is not the past. Each moment is new, each opportunity unique, each attempt independent. Yet doubt blinds you to this truth. It tells you that history is destiny, when in reality, history is only memory. At its core, doubt is a misuse of imagination. The same mind that could envision success, growth, and transformation is instead creating pictures of failure, disappointment, and loss. And because energy flows where attention goes, those pictures begin to shape experience. You hesitate, you withdraw, you sabotage yourself without realizing it. The imagination that could be your ally becomes your enemy, not because it is inherently negative, but because it is under the influence of doubt. This block also weakens decision-making. When you doubt yourself, you hesitate to choose. You fear making the wrong decision, so you delay. Delay becomes indecision, and indecision becomes stagnation. Life does not pause simply because you do. Opportunities move forward. Time continues. Change happens with or without your participation. By doubting and hesitating, you allow the river of life to carry possibilities past you while you stand still on the shore, paralyzed by your own uncertainty. Doubt also changes the way you interact with others. If you doubt yourself, you unconsciously project that energy outward. You may seek constant validation, asking others for reassurance, and when reassurance does not come, your doubt deepens. Or you may withdraw entirely, afraid to show your vulnerability, isolating yourself from the very connections that could uplift you. In either case, doubt isolates you, either by pushing you to depend too heavily on others or by making you retreat from them altogether. The weight of doubt can even manifest physically. The body responds to the energy of the mind. Shoulders slump, breath shortens, posture weakens. This physical manifestation then reinforces the mental state. You feel small because you stand small. You feel powerless because you move without power. And so doubt becomes not just a thought, but an embodied experience. Breaking free from it requires awareness, not only of the mind, but of how the body carries its echoes. What is often overlooked is that doubt does not only stop you from taking action, it also diminishes the quality of the actions you do take. When you act with doubt, you hold back. You do not give your full energy, your full presence, your full commitment, and life responds to the energy you bring. If you approach with hesitation, results mirror hesitation. If you approach with confidence, results mirror confidence. Thus, doubt becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because failure was inevitable, but because half-hearted energy created half-hearted results. Doubt rooted in past failures must be seen for what it truly is: a memory pretending to be prophecy. The past has value as a teacher, but when it becomes a prison, it blocks growth. Every failure carries a lesson, but once the lesson is learned, the event has no more power. It is only when you carry the emotional residue forward that it becomes a chain. Recognizing this chain is the first step to dissolving it. Doubt cannot survive in the light of awareness, but as long as it hides in the shadows, it grows unchecked. This block is heavy not because failure is heavy, but because the memory of failure is carried again and again, as if relived each time you attempt something new. The weight you feel is not only the failure itself, but the repetition of its echo. To release doubt, the echo must be silenced, not by forgetting the past, but by refusing to let it dictate the present. Only then can the imagination, once hijacked by fear, return to its true role as a creator of possibility rather than limitation. Attachment to comfort is one of the most deceptive blocks on the path of growth because it rarely announces itself as a problem. It feels natural, it feels safe, it feels deserved. After all, who does not want to be comfortable? Comfort gives the illusion of peace, the sensation of stability, and the feeling of control. Yet beneath this softness lies a hidden chain that quietly prevents you from stepping into the unknown. While comfort nurtures the body and soothes the mind, it also creates walls around your spirit. These walls are invisible but strong, and they keep you locked in patterns that may not serve you anymore. The human being is designed for growth. Every cell in the body renews itself, every season in nature changes, every breath is a reminder of constant movement. Yet the mind, seeking safety, resists change. It clings to what is known, even if the known is painful, because the unfamiliar feels threatening. This is the paradox of comfort. You can remain stuck in situations that do not fulfill you simply because they are familiar. A job that drains your energy, a relationship that lacks harmony, a lifestyle that limits your potential. All of these can become prisons disguised as comfort zones. The attachment to comfort creates stagnation. Growth requires friction, challenge, and the willingness to endure discomfort. Muscles grow through strain, wisdom grows through mistakes, and courage grows through risk. But when comfort is prioritized above all else, growth becomes impossible. You choose ease over challenge, predictability over possibility, safety over expansion. And in doing so, you silence the call of your own potential. This block is particularly dangerous because it does not feel like fear, though it is rooted in fear, fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of losing what you have. These fears are masked by the soothing voice of comfort. You tell yourself you are content, you convince yourself you are satisfied, but deep within, a quiet restlessness remains. That restlessness is the soul's reminder that you are not meant to remain stagnant. Yet as long as comfort holds you, that voice is easy to ignore. Comfort also creates illusions about time. You tell yourself that you will act later, that you will make the change tomorrow, that there will always be another chance. But tomorrow becomes weeks, weeks become years, and years become a lifetime of unfulfilled potential. Comfort lulls you into believing that time is abundant, when in truth, time is always moving. Every moment spent clinging to comfort is a moment not spent pursuing growth. This illusion of endless time is one of the strongest chains comfort creates. The trap of comfort is that it rewards you in the short term while robbing you in the long term. In the moment, it feels good. You avoid stress, you avoid risk, you avoid uncertainty. But over time, the cost becomes heavier regret, stagnation, and a sense of unfulfilled purpose. The human spirit withers not from hardship, but from the absence of challenge. Comfort starves the soul by denying it the experiences that awaken strength and resilience. Another way attachment to comfort blocks growth is by lowering standards. When you become too comfortable, you begin to accept less than what you are capable of. You stop striving, you stop demanding excellence from yourself, you stop pursuing higher goals. Mediocrity begins to feel normal because it does not challenge you. But deep within, you know that mediocrity is not your destiny. This inner conflict creates tension. The surface appears calm, but underneath lies frustration, boredom, or even quiet despair. Comfort also fosters dependency. When you attach too strongly to what makes you comfortable, you begin to fear losing it. Whether it is a lifestyle, a possession, a relationship, or even a routine, your sense of security becomes tied to something external. This dependency weakens you because it gives power to circumstances beyond your control. True strength is found in adaptability, but attachment to comfort erodes adaptability. The moment life shifts, and life always shifts, you feel shaken, anxious, and unprepared. This block is subtle because comfort is celebrated in modern life. Society teaches you to seek convenience, to reduce effort, to make everything easier. Technology, entertainment, and consumer culture all promise comfort as the highest goal. Yet the more you embrace comfort without awareness, the more disconnected you become from resilience, patience, and discipline. You lose touch with the very qualities that make growth possible. Attachment to comfort also creates resistance to change, even when change is necessary. You may know deep inside that you need to let go of certain habits, relationships, or environments, but the thought of leaving what is familiar feels unbearable. You tell yourself, at least I know what to expect here, even if what you expect is not good for you. This resistance keeps you trapped in cycles that repeat endlessly. Life tries to push you toward growth, but you resist clinging to the old, and in doing so, you prolong your own suffering. The comfort zone is not inherently bad. Rest and recovery are essential parts of growth. But when rest turns into residence, when recovery turns into retreat, you begin to shrink. The comfort zone should be a place you return to for nourishment, not the place where you build your entire life. If you mistake it for your home, you never discover the landscapes beyond its borders. The attachment to comfort also silences courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. But when comfort becomes your priority, courage is no longer exercised. Like a muscle left unused, it weakens. Over time, even small risks feel overwhelming. Even minor discomfort feels unbearable. This is how attachment to comfort makes you fragile. Instead of facing life with strength, you face it with avoidance. This block feeds on routine. When every day looks the same, when every choice is predictable, when no challenge enters your life, the mind becomes dull and the spirit restless. Routine without challenge numbs creativity, diminishes inspiration, and leaves you feeling empty despite external stability. You may have everything you thought you wanted, yet feel something is missing. What is missing is growth, and growth cannot happen in the grip of comfort. The danger of this block is that it convinces you that you are safe when in truth you are trapped. Safety in comfort is temporary, but the cost of staying there is lasting. Life is not meant to be lived in stillness. Rivers flow, winds shift, seasons change. To resist this natural movement is to resist life itself. The longer you resist, the heavier the weight becomes. until the soul can no longer ignore the call for change. Attachment to comfort whispers that stepping into the unknown is dangerous. But the real danger lies in never stepping at all. It tells you that risk may hurt you, but it hides the truth that stagnation will starve you. It promises peace, but the peace it offers is shallow. True peace comes not from avoiding discomfort, but from knowing you have the strength to face it. And that strength can only be discovered when you are willing to let go of comfort and step into the uncertainty where growth is born. The dialogue within your mind is the most constant voice you will ever hear. And yet for most people, it is the one they pay the least attention to. Every day, thoughts flow like an endless river, shaping how you see yourself, how you experience the world, and how much strength you bring into each moment. When that inner dialogue is supportive, it lifts you, it strengthens you, it gives you clarity and energy. But when the inner dialogue is negative, it becomes one of the greatest hidden blocks, draining you from the inside out. Unlike external obstacles, this one cannot be escaped because it travels with you wherever you go. Negative inner dialogue often begins subtly. A single thought of self-criticism, a moment of comparison, a doubt about your worth. Left unchecked, these thoughts multiply, weaving together into patterns that repeat throughout the day. Soon they are no longer just thoughts but a narrative, a story you tell yourself about who you are and what you can or cannot do. That story becomes the lens through which you see every opportunity, every challenge, and every relationship. And because the mind tends to seek evidence for what it believes, you begin to notice only the experiences that confirm the negative story, reinforcing it further until it feels like truth. This block is powerful because it works silently. From the outside, others may see your potential, your strengths, your abilities, but inside, the voice of self-criticism drowns all of it out. The mind repeats phrases like, "You're not good enough," "You'll never succeed," or "You always fail." These words may not be spoken aloud, but their impact is greater than anything anyone else could say. Over time, the body begins to respond to these inner messages. Energy decreases, posture weakens, and motivation fades. It is not because you lack ability, but because you are carrying the heavy weight of your own inner voice. Negative inner dialogue also affects decision making. When the voice inside is critical, you approach choices with hesitation and fear. Instead of seeing opportunities, you see risks. Instead of imagining success, you imagine failure. This constant negativity creates paralysis, making it difficult to take even small steps forward. And when you do act, the actions are half-hearted, weighed down by the expectation of defeat. As a result, the outcomes often match the negativity, which then confirms the story you already believe, creating a cycle that feels impossible to break. This block also influences relationships. When you constantly criticize yourself internally, you project that energy outward. You may become overly sensitive to criticism from others, interpreting even neutral comments as attacks. Or you may push people away, convinced that they cannot truly value or love you. Alternatively, you might cling to relationships that are unhealthy because your inner voice tells you that you do not deserve better. In all these ways, the dialogue within shapes the connections outside, proving that the inner world always manifests in the outer one. One of the most dangerous aspects of negative inner dialogue is how easily it becomes normalized. Because these thoughts occur so frequently, they begin to feel like part of your identity. You stop questioning them and start believing that this is simply who you are. The voice in your mind becomes the voice of authority, and you obey it without resistance. But in truth, this voice is not who you are. It is a collection of beliefs, impressions, and echoes from the past, words from parents, teachers, society, or painful experiences that were internalized and then repeated so often that they became automatic. Negative dialogue also drains energy in subtle but constant ways. Every critical thought is like a small leak in your energy system. One or two may not matter, but when they flow endlessly, day after day, they leave you depleted. You may wake up tired, not because your body lacks rest, but because your mind has been fighting against itself. This exhaustion makes it harder to take action, which then fuels the negative voice that tells you that you are lazy or incapable. Again, the cycle continues. The inner critic thrives on comparison. Every time you look at someone else's success, the inner dialogue twists it into evidence of your inadequacy. Instead of being inspired, you feel smaller. Instead of being motivated, you feel defeated. This constant measuring against others strengthens the negative narrative, convincing you that you are always behind, always lacking, always less. Yet what the inner critic never acknowledges is that each journey is unique, and comparison ignores the unseen struggles, efforts, and timing of others. Another way negative inner dialogue blocks growth is by magnifying mistakes. Instead of seeing mistakes as natural steps in learning, the inner critic turns them into proof of failure. A single error becomes exaggerated into a declaration of incompetence. You replay it in your mind, reliving the shame or embarrassment again and again until it becomes larger than it ever was in reality. This magnification keeps you from trying again, reinforcing the fear of failure and keeping you trapped in inaction. This block also suppresses creativity. Creativity requires openness, experimentation, and the freedom to explore without fear of judgment. But when the inner dialogue is constantly criticizing, creativity withers. You dismiss ideas before they are even expressed, convinced they are not good enough. You silence your own voice before others can hear it, out of fear that they will judge you as harshly as you already judge yourself. In this way, negative dialogue does not only limit what you achieve, but also robs the world of the gifts you might otherwise share. The body carries the weight of negative thoughts as well. Stress increases, tension builds in the muscles, and the nervous system remains in a constant state of alertness. The body does not distinguish between criticism from others and criticism from yourself. It reacts to both as if under attack. Over time, this can lead to physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, weakened immunity, or even chronic conditions. The voice in your mind is not only shaping your mood, but influencing your physical health. The silence of negative inner dialogue is what makes it so powerful. Because it is not spoken aloud, it is rarely challenged. You would not allow another person to constantly insult you, yet when the insults come from within, you accept them as truth. This acceptance strengthens the block, making it harder to separate the real self from the inner critic. The real self is capable, resilient, and filled with potential, but the critic's voice drowns it out, leaving only the illusion of weakness. This block thrives in repetition. The more you repeat a thought, the deeper it carves itself into the mind, forming neural pathways that become habits of thinking. Over time, these habits feel automatic, but they are not unchangeable. They were learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. Yet until you become aware of the repetition, It continues in the background, shaping your life without your consent. The effect of negative dialogue is not just personal, but generational. The way you speak to yourself influences how you speak to others, especially children or those close to you. If your inner voice is harsh, you may unconsciously pass that harshness on, creating cycles of criticism that extend beyond your own life. This shows how powerful inner dialogue truly is. It not only defines your relationship with yourself, but also ripples outward into the lives of others. At its root, negative inner dialogue is fear disguised as truth. It fears failure, so it convinces you not to try. It fears rejection, so it convinces you that you are unworthy. It fears pain, so it convinces you that you cannot handle challenges. But these are not truths. They are protective mechanisms gone too far. The problem is that the protection itself becomes the prison, keeping you from discovering the strength you actually have. This hidden block is one of the most important to recognize because it influences every other one. Fear, doubt, and attachment to comfort all find their power amplified by negative dialogue. If you silence the inner critic, fear loses its grip, doubt weakens, and comfort no longer feels so binding. But as long as the inner dialogue remains negative, all other blocks grow stronger. This is why the voice within must be seen clearly. It is not the enemy, but it is not the truth either. It is simply a habit of thought. And like all habits, it can either keep you trapped or become the doorway to freedom.